afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure I ever get used to doing this kind of things, but I'm sure I should be more used to it. I've done it a couple of times now, but I just want to thank you for joining Bay State Wind today for this very exciting day. We are very excited to open up an office here in New Bedford. We've never been in doubt that we would be located here in New Bedford, and the time is right now, so we are truly excited about that. My name is Thomas Brostrom, and I am president of Ørsted North America. And some of you might have known we have just recently changed our name. We changed it from Dong Energy to Ørsted, and I just want to put a few words to that as well. So Hans Christian Ørsted was essentially Denmark's Thomas Edison, and we've taken his name. He was a guy who invented electromagnetism. The way I normally put it is that we feel like Thomas Edison is actually America's Hans Christian Ørsted. It does sort of also mark that we have changed rapidly over the last 5-10 years to be a pure or 100% pure play green company. We have just divested our oil and gas, and it sort of marks a new start for our company. But I want to thank the members of New Bedford community, including the City Council, Chamber of Commerce, and Educational Institution. Special thank you to the Mayor of New Bedford, Jon Mitchell, Senator Montigny, he's not here, Representative Cabral, Rep Smith, and also Jim Olivia. Also like to thank our partner, Eversource. You are a great partner. We feel very safe in your hands, and we are also very excited to see you take part in the whole change towards a more clean and green economy. This office will be a co-location for both management and community engagement people in New Bedford. As a start, we would have Greg Dutra based here, and we will quite quickly relocate one or two of our permitting and environmental specialists. Obviously, we are getting ready for building the project. Still a little bit of way to go there, but in the interim, this is basically how we are manning the office. So I just want to again thank everybody for coming here, and I want to hand over the word to our partner from Eversource, Ken Bowes.
Thank you, Thomas, for a great introduction. My name is Ken Bowes. I'm the Vice President of Transmission Performance for Eversource Energy, and it's my pleasure to be here and be part of the Bay State Wind project as well. I think we've picked a great partner in Ørsted, and our history here, both in New Bedford as well as in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, actually goes back to one of the original Boston Edison companies, and that goes back almost 130 years. So we have a long presence here in the community. We're now ranked as the nation's #1 energy efficiency company, and we are also on a transformation to exit the fossil fuel business and enter into the clean energy business. And here in Massachusetts, both with our solar programs, our award-winning energy efficiency, and now with an offshore wind project, we think we're starting to fulfill that mission that we are on. It all comes down to great partnerships, though, both with local government, with state government, and obviously with a great partner. We look forward to developing the offshore wind here in Massachusetts. There's a potential for more than 2,000 megawatts on our lease area, and that will clearly put Massachusetts, as well as Bay State Wind, at the forefront of clean energy here in the United States. Again, thank you all for coming. It's a great day, and we hope to see you here for the next 30 years as we develop and operate and maintain this project.
So before I hand over the word to the mayor here, I actually forgot a very important thing here, because today, as we're also deepening our roots in New Bedford community, we are also committing an immediate donation of $25,000 to the New Bedford Wind Energy Center, whose mission essentially is to capture all the benefit possible for the deployment of offshore wind. These efforts are led by Paul Region. You are a true champion of wind here. We are very excited. We are very honored to work with you and present this donation to you. So I think I'm going to leave it like that, but I will just finish by saying that New Bedford is going to be the epicenter for offshore wind in Massachusetts. It's been teed up for a long time. This is the moment, and it's going to happen now. I think we have tremendous, exciting years ahead of us. With that, I would hand over the word to the Mayor of New Bedford, Jon Mitchell.
Nice job. All right, thank you, Thomas. I appreciate the introduction, and I've never been in this space before. I suspect most of us haven't, and it's great. Anne Marie was pointing out to me, she immediately recognized that this is going to be a prime spot from which cable access can film the Christmas tree lighting in next month, which is a great idea. But it's a wonderful vantage point, and it's a vantage point not just to look out over the library, but also everything that's happening right here at City Hall. We welcome you. And by the way, the mayor's office, which is right there. I found myself 2 days ago looking out my window, just sort of gazing out as one does from one's office, and then I looked and I was like, yeah, it looks like Craig Dutra over there. So I did one of these, and he did in response. So yes, indeed, this was the site. I knew it then. But anyway, we're so pleased with Ørsted's investment, and I'm getting used to saying Ørsted. I think for American ears, that was a good rebranding of the company, so we can all agree. Yes, it rolls off the tongue, right? Very well done, guys. But we, enough on that, please, Tony. But yeah, it's brilliant. But we're pleased and honored that Ørsted and together with Eversource have made this commitment to New Bedford because, as Ken pointed out, this is a long-term commitment. What we are trying to do, I think it's just worth talking a little bit about, is what we're trying to achieve with the offshore wind industry is something very similar to what we have in the fishing industry in this sense. This city, our port, is the epicenter of the fishing industry on the east coast of the United States, and it houses the largest fishing cluster really anywhere, in the sense that every facet of the industry is here. So harvesting, processing, training, research, everything, all the ancillary industries. And the reason for that significance is this: if you're in that industry, and on the east coast of the United States, you have to be in New Bedford. You have to have some connection to New Bedford, and that's why we get boats from as far north as Maine now and as far south as Florida landing their fish here. We want people to think about New Bedford in the same way in the long run as it pertains to the offshore wind industry. We want to be, as you just noted, I think this is the right term, the epicenter. We want people to say, you know what, there are lots of places for offshore wind on the East Coast. We really want to see the industry built out in a way that's similar to what we've seen in the North Sea. But we want to be first among equals. We want people to say, if they're in the industry, yeah, we've got to have a toehold in New Bedford one way or the other, or both feet planted, ideally, as you guys have here. And because I think that's what's going to sustain economic growth in that industry and related industries over the long term, and that's what's going to attract capital and create jobs, and that's what we're striving for. We've got this geographic advantage, we've got the infrastructure advantage, we've got the advantage of a great seafaring workforce, so we know we've got really strong cards to play, but we've got to play them skillfully, and so we've spent the last 5 or 6 years really trying to position ourselves to activate that potential, knowing that we're probably still not going to see windmills for a few years yet, because it takes a while for any major industry to get off the ground. Derek often uses the example of the textile industry here in New Bedford. Historians of our city will note that the first major mill, the warm soda mills, were built in 1846 at the height of the whaling industry, and that the next major mills weren't built for another 40 years, and then it really ramped up. Well, we're going to see it ramp up here in the offshore wind industry. It is everything, all the macro trends are heading in that direction, and we want to be in a position as the first mover port to say, come here first. And I think that strategy is working, and today's a huge step forward along those lines. It is especially encouraging that we have the likes of the leading offshore wind company on the planet, making this commitment with one of the major utilities in the United States together in a joint venture that's saying, yeah, New Bedford, you are the place. And so, indeed, you have our support. We're thrilled that you guys are making this investment, this commitment, and we really appreciate the relationship that we have with you. It's a long time in coming, and there's been a lot of folks who've been involved in various facets of the effort. Folks like Tony and Derek and Paul all along the way who've been working on economic development, who've been doing the evangelizing well before of this industry, well before people knew anything about it. Paul's been talking about it for a long time, and Paul, everybody's finally coming around to your way of thinking. Yeah, it takes a while. You're so far out ahead of us. Our port director, Ed Washburn, I mean, the work in the port is integral to everything that we do because it is, after all, a marine industry. The work of the state legislature, Senator Montigny's not here, but Tony and Paul Schmid, Pat Haddad, I mean, these folks really went to bat for the industry last year in promoting an energy bill that makes the market for offshore wind here in Massachusetts. And that's why it's moving. That's why you see these investments. That's why you see vessels in the port now that are doing the surveying work, doing the initial work to start to build out these farms in the years ahead. Jim Oliveira wearing not just the city council hat, where he did a lot of educating and a lot of explaining and a lot of advocacy, but also as the workforce, the executive director of the Workforce Investment Board, knowing along the way that the WIB is going to play a really key role in getting folks prepared for the jobs that don't exist just yet. I mean, that's the role there, and the work that he's done is integral to all of it. Folks like Rick Kidder at the Chamber, Bob Unger, who's another evangelist, tweeting away about the offshore wind industry and promoting it at every turn. And Brewer, Patriot, wind aficionado, all those things. He's a triple threat. But we're all in it. And it's so, I mean, I could name Helena. I mean, everyone, Liz. It's been very gratifying from where I sit because the industry has, folks in the business community have stepped up. And we need to continue to do that in the years ahead. Working with Craig here, who's been a great choice for this position, someone who knows the business community and the nonprofit community very well here. Big things happen in cities when folks outside of City Hall step up and say, you know what, I want to take the lead on that. I want to do that. City Hall has to be part of it. The state legislature has to be part of it. But the big things don't get done until folks in the private sector say, you know what, let's all together make this happen. And that's what's going to sustain things over mayoral administrations. And I know, like, in the midst of an election season, I shouldn't be talking about, successive mayors and things like that. I've 5,000 new jobs. 5,000. Don't forget, 5,000 new jobs. Yep. Remember. But seriously, though, this is what it takes to build a city in the long run. Everybody stepping up and getting behind a great idea. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our great partners for their work in making it happen. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I want to hand over to the rep, Cabral.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Bay State Wind, or Ørsted, and the partners of Eversource. It's nice to have Eversource as a partner rather than an adversary, and it's always wonderful to have Eversource on the right side of the issue. We set this course in Massachusetts quite some time ago. I'll give you a little history of that. Starting in 2008 when we passed the Green Act, the Green Communities Act, and later on we passed the Global Warming Act, and then we stopped the previous administration from trying to pass a piece of legislation that would just go out for procurement of the same old thing, right? Natural gas, oil, and coal, and everything else. And then we set out to really meet with all the players and all the folks interested in offshore wind and renewable energies. In the fall of 2005, myself, Representative Schmidt, and other partners, and Representative Haddad from Somerset. We had a series of meetings both in Somerset Public Library and at the State House with all the players, starting with Ørsted, and Eversource was there as well, and everybody in this industry, in order to help us understand what kind of piece of legislation we should file. And we did file for the 2006-2017 session, file a piece of legislation that set in place really the beginnings of what the offshore wind industry was going to be here in Massachusetts. A piece of legislation that requires 1,600 megawatts of offshore wind to be bought by Eversource and other companies, the suppliers of electricity in Massachusetts. So that in itself set that course. Then the state felt that New Bedford was the right place, not because by chance, but by us advocating from City Hall to the legislature to all of us, making sure that that investment was going to be made in New Bedford. Precisely, we built the terminal, $113 million, and still going, still not finished. So all those things, we just passed, by the way, yesterday, and that's the course we have set ourselves in Massachusetts to really be a leader on renewables, be a leader in green energy, efficiency, and really create the kinds of jobs, the future jobs, or the jobs of tomorrow in Massachusetts. And New Bedford is going to be the epicenter of that. And that's what we have worked along with City Hall and the legislature, the executive branch, to make sure that we're going to be right there at center stage when it comes to this industry and to this type of new renewable energy. Yesterday, just as part of that course that we set ourselves since 2008, we just passed a piece of legislation in the House that makes Massachusetts a non-member of the Paris Climate Agreement. We don't care what the federal government is going to do. We don't care what Donald Trump will do. In Massachusetts, we're going to honor, we're going to follow the Paris Accord. We have just passed legislation in the House. The Senate will pass it, I believe, next week to make us a non-member of the Paris Agreement Accord. Therefore, committing ourselves, not only by saying, but actually on paper, that we're going to follow those goals to be met. And that is very important. That's sort of that last piece in that sense of setting ourselves as the leader in the country, as the leader in the region, and New Bedford, again, will be a major player in all those things. And I think you're going to see a tremendous change in the city going forward, be jobs, be other investments from the private sector, and that's what we need to do, as the mayor said. It doesn't take one person, it doesn't take one entity, it's a bunch of folks working together, both from government to private sector, to elected officials, and just the community itself, understanding what we need to do, how we need to come together to really push an industry of this nature so we become the leaders really on this industry. So I'm proud that we were able to put a lot of these pieces together. I'm proud that I was working along with Paul and others and Pat Haddad, making sure that we set all those things in motion, that we had all the things set up for this to happen in New Bedford. So I'm glad to see Bay State Wind, or Ørsted, if you want to use Ørsted, and their partner Eversource opening this office. I think it's a commitment on their part, and we hope that every single one of these companies understand that they have to have a presence in New Bedford. They have to have a presence in New Bedford. We demand that, we deserve that, and because this is where it's going to happen, if it's going to happen. And we're going to work with you. We're going to work with you as we've been working with you. The RFP is out. Sometime in the spring, someone will be awarded one of the contracts, at least for 400. I would say at least 400 megawatts, if not more. And we are on our way to really becoming the leaders in offshore wind. And as this city is on its way to be, again, the place that lights the world or lit the world, So I think all of us should really be excited about this. I know the mayor is, I know I am, I know Paul is, both Pauls, Jim. And the other thing I must say is I think I'm glad that you picked a great person here, really, to represent Bay State in New Bedford. Craig knows everybody, knows the business community, knows the community at large, has worked both from nonprofits to government. I first met Craig, actually was working for government at that point. Then he moved on to the nonprofit world. And I think it was a great pick as well to make sure that, and I think you will be the right person to keep us all together and bring us together on this issue. So thank you again. Tom, it's a pleasure to see you, especially in New Bedford, and welcome again. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Representative Cabral, for the kind words, and we are very excited to have Greg here as part of the team. So I think we have a last speaker here. Representative Smith will be up.
Goodness, am I batting cleanup on this? Well, thank you very much for the honor. I will echo Tony's kind words that he just said about Craig Dutra, and I think that thank you, Craig, for bringing us together this afternoon, really, as nobody else in the area can. Indeed, Bay State Wind chose very wisely. My colleagues in government, the mayor, and by the way, Mayor, good luck on Tuesday. Am I allowed to say that? Well, I just did. Good luck on Tuesday. And Tony Cabral, Chairman Cabral, my good friend and colleague, a wonderful leader in everything that has to do with New Bedford. Both of them have spoken very eloquently. And so I'll just end by saying this. Welcome to Bay State Wind. Thomas and Ken, you'll find, and Jimmy Oliveira already knows this, you'll find that people in New Bedford know how to work. People in New Bedford want to work. People in New Bedford like to work. So you will find you are well rewarded by locating here in New Bedford. So to Bay State Wind, I say, welcome to New Bedford. Let's grow together, and here's for the next 30 years.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Rep. Smith. You are indeed not the last speaker. I'm forgetting a very important person here, Paul Wiegand.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you to Bay State for the generous gift. It's really awe-inspiring to be in the presence of leaders like yourself and John, who have the ability to look over the horizon and take us to a place where a lot of people don't know we need to be. And that's what you do, and that's what you do every day. So congratulations for your leadership. Thank you for your generous gift. If I could maybe advocate for one more thing in the future, it would be to our legislative colleagues. You created the U.S. market. We have 1,600 megawatts, but there's 10 gig out there. So once we build the first 400, start thinking of another 4,000 megawatts by like 2030. Cheers. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.